How do you know you're not stupid? Seriously. What if thinking you're smart is the very sign that you're not? It's like driving blindfolded, thinking you know exactly where you're going, but unaware of the dangers ahead. Sometimes, the very act of believing we have all the answers can leave us in the dark. And that's just stupid. Have you ever met someone who talks like they know everything, but clearly doesn't? Ever realized after an argument that you were the one missing the point? We all have. In that uncomfortable moment, that might be the start of wisdom. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, once said, "I know that I know nothing." To most people, that sounds absurd, but to Socrates, it was the starting point of all wisdom. True intelligence, he believed, begins with the humble realization of your own ignorance. If you're absolutely sure you know everything, chances are you're missing something big. Think of it this way. The smartest people ask the most questions, not because they're dumb, but because they know how much they don't know. They stay curious. They listen more than they speak. Plato, his student, took that idea even further. In his allegory of the cave, he describes people chained in darkness, mistaking shadows for reality. Sound familiar? Imagine scrolling through social media and thinking you've mastered world history in a 30-second clip. That's the cave. We live in a time of instant information and instant misinformation. According to Plato, the ignorant are often the most confident, and that, ironically, is what makes them dangerous. They believe their limited view is the whole truth. Plato warns us that true enlightenment isn't comfortable, it's disorienting. It means leaving the cave, stepping into the light, and realizing you were wrong about everything. That's not easy, but it's necessary. Aristotle drew a sharp line between cleverness and wisdom. You can be clever and still be a fool. Think of the person who always wins debates, but never listens, or the one who outsmarts others just to feel superior. Wisdom, Aristotle said, isn't about being right. It's about understanding what matters. Real wisdom is practical, ethical, and deeply reflective, not just mental gymnastics or witty comebacks. In fact, Aristotle believed that true wisdom was rooted in virtue, the ability to act well, not just think well. So when you're reflecting on your own intelligence, ask not just, am I smart, but am I wise? Am I kind? Am I growing? Laozi, the sage behind the Tao Te Ching, wrote, "Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom." In Taoist philosophy, true stupidity isn't just being uninformed. It's being disconnected from yourself, from nature, from truth. Confucius echoed this. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. It's like being lost in a city, but refusing to ask for directions because you don't want to admit you're lost. Eastern philosophy often encourages humility, not as weakness, but as a deep spiritual strength. The idea is that by emptying ourselves, we can be filled. That by letting go of pride, we make room for real growth. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, warned, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Think of someone who never takes advice, even when they're clearly wrong. The ancient Stoics believed arrogance was the enemy of growth. If you assume you're already wise, you shut the door to becoming truly wise. Humility isn't a weakness. It's a strategy for lifelong learning. Seneca, another Stoic thinker, believed that life is short, not because of time, but because we waste it thinking we already have the answers. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. We waste it being stubborn, being defensive, clinging to what we think we know instead of exploring what we might learn." Then there's Diogenes, the cynic who walked around with a lantern in daylight, claiming he was looking for an honest man. He mocked the so-called wise men of Athens, calling out their vanity and pretension. To Diogenes, stupidity was often hidden behind a mask of sophistication. Ever met someone who uses big words and quotes philosophers, but clearly doesn't live any of it? That's what Diogenes hated, performative wisdom. He believed in stripping life down to its essentials, in seeing the truth, not dressing it up. Even today, we see this everywhere. People who confuse confidence for competence, loud voices drowning out thoughtful ones, echo chambers rewarding certainty over nuance, but ancient wisdom cuts through the noise. It reminds us that intelligence isn't about always being right. It's about being open, being curious, being wrong, and learning from it. So how do you know you're not stupid? Maybe the real answer is, you don't. And that's not a flaw. That's the beginning. Because according to the ancients, the moment you question your own intelligence, your own assumptions, your own certainty, that's when you take your first real step toward wisdom. True intelligence isn't about having all the answers. It's about staying open, curious, and humble enough to admit when you don't know. The fool pretends to know it all. The wise know that learning never ends. So next time you feel uncertain, confused, or even foolish, don't push it away. Lean into it. That may be the very sign that you're becoming wiser than you were yesterday. Because the truly wise don't fear their ignorance. They respect it. They dance with it. They use it as fuel for deeper understanding. And if you found yourself thinking during this video, congratulations. You're already on the path. Subscribe to Ancient and Wise for more forgotten truths, lost teachings, and ancient wisdom that still matters today.